Today is the third day of the ANC Eastern Cape Elective Conference. Saturday's open conference session got heated when delegates raised grievances. Commissions are still expected today to report back to the plenary regarding the credentials. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to close the conference on Monday. eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge is monitoring developments for us. He now joins me live. Sipa, it looks very quiet where you are now. Earlier on when we crossed to you, it seemed as though there was a little bit of panic, and when you tried to speak to Zizi Godwa, he said he was dealing with the matter. What is the situation like now at the ANC Eastern Cape Conference?
The conference is back in session. It's a closed session behind me inside the plenary, but there is no progress to report on really. It's just what has been going on for the past 2 days now. This is the third day. Ordinarily, it should be the third and last day of the ANC conference. By now, we should have had ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa addressing the gathering, closing this conference, but it's not going to happen today. Hence, we still have the issue of the credentials that have not been adopted as we speak. 5 minutes before coming on air, one senior NEC source told me that it's not looking good. It's tense inside. Comrades are disagreeing on the issue of credentials. We are back to square one discussing credentials. I asked, so they have not been adopted as we speak. He said no, they will not be adopted anytime soon. There is a likelihood that this gathering could go on for at least a number of hours till the early hours of the morning, and this conference is already delayed as we speak. It was meant to deal with the issue of the credentials this morning at 8 o'clock. The issue of the credentials was deferred yesterday night when the conference was adjourned, so that they would resume this morning, deal with the issue of the credentials, adopt them, move into nominations and voting for the officials of the ANC in the Eastern Cape province, but none of that has happened. Technically, you can't have a conference without adopting the credentials. Why do the credentials matter? Simply because you know who is here as a voting delegate, from which branch, which region, how many people are going to be voting delegates, non-voting delegates, guests as well. So once you adopt conference credentials, you simply say everyone here is accounted for. We are ready to proceed with this conference because those people will be voting. We don't want a situation whereby the outcome of the conference could be challenged in court because they were quote-unquote bogus delegates or ghost delegates. And the conference behind me, the plenary, is seized with that matter of discussing credentials. Earlier on, the conference had to be halted because they were not agreeing on that. The steering committee, led by the convener of NEC deployees to the Eastern Cape, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, had to intervene, look at the credentials, and then report back to plenary. And that report back session is what is currently underway, but it's not looking good in terms of the conference adopting those credentials anytime soon. Let's take a listen to what the head of organizing for the ANC, Nomvula Mokonyane, who's also an NEC deployee to the Eastern Cape, had to say about the resumption of this conference.
Yes, we are done.
Is the conference resuming?
We are proceeding.
Sorry?
For real, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Credentials issues sorted out?
Yes.
Are they going to be adopted now?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
What about the manipulated branches? Will they be allowed to vote?
There is a process that the ANC has adopted on it.
Okay. Siyabonga.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Sipa, there's a lot of confidence that this conference is going to go ahead. And while they are now closed in a closed session, I'm worried and concerned about the security issue, because we know that private security has been deployed because there is concern over tension, and they just want to make sure that should violence erupt, there is security on standby. You referred to the conference a few years ago being the Festival of Chairs, and they, of course, are trying to avoid that. I do understand that you spoke to Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. What did she have to say with regards to security and the issues that have been raised for the delay of this conference actually kicking off?
The provincial task team of the ANC in the Eastern Cape says the issue of deploying security is to ensure that everyone who is within the conference premises and present is safe, including delegates. They don't want a repeat of what happened in 2017 when this conference or that conference degenerated. There was chaos, there was violence, chairs were used whereby delegates hit each other with chairs. And Siphamandla Goge, who was appointed the head of communications for the previous Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC, which was converted into a provincial task team when their term of office lapsed, says, well, the issue of security is just to ensure that everyone is safe. She says they don't want a situation whereby some delegates will attempt to collapse this conference, and many people are worried about that possibility, saying this conference is on the verge of collapsing. Look at it this way. Friday was set aside for registration. Saturday was meant to be the official day when the conference starts. Gwere Mantashe, who's the national chairperson of the ANC, opened the conference. After that, Oscar Mabuyane, who's the convener of the provincial task team, delivered the political report or tabled the political report, and that was the end of activities. Now we resume today with what was supposed to be credentials being adopted, nominations and voting, and all of that has not happened. And those are the key components and elements of a successful conference. Siphamandla Goge is saying they are trying hard to revive this seemingly collapsing conference, but all ANC leaders are adamant that this conference will be a success. Let's take a listen.
If they demand that the conference must not proceed, no one is allowed to make that demand, and it will never be adhered to. We are here for the conference. As I said, including the regional secretaries had agreed that the conference must proceed, but there are these issues that others believe strongly that you have not done this, you are supposed to do this, and this is why they are being had. The conference is definitely going to take place, and some can know, as you were saying, are we likely to see what we saw in 2017 in terms of the chairs? No delegate is going to pick up a chair. We've tightened security inside the plenary to make sure that nobody does that. Nobody can pick up a chair and throw it at anyone, but we're not saying people cannot be anarchic. As I said, others are singing right now. But of course, we are all politicians. We've seen all the anarchy in the world. We know how to deal with it, just like we dealt with it in 2017. We did not allow the conference to collapse. We proceeded with the work of the conference because the majority of delegates allowed us to do so. We're going to do the same today with the majority of the delegates in that conference. If they say, let us proceed, as they've already insisted, we will be proceeding. Conference is not of us as individuals, but it is of the branch delegates, and therefore, if I as an individual am not really happy, we are allowed to go and dispute a conference. That's an alternative. If one is not happy, you can't hold a conference. It's only the court that can do that because we respect the court.
Sipha, speak to us about what the national spokesperson of the ANC has said with regards to there being no crisis, despite the fact that this conference has taken some time to actually kick off.
All ANC leaders are putting up some brave faces, saying, well, there is no crisis, we've got things under control. This is what happens during ANC conferences. You can expect the issue of the credentials that is going to take time. We are not under pressure to deliver this conference, but we want to deliver a successful conference that will not be challenged, that people will not be able to go to court and challenge it. Ulema basically saying, hang on, media people, do not hype this as if the conference is collapsing, but it's his job to say so. It's his job to speak for the ANC and paint a picture of an ANC that is in charge and an ANC that is under control. But the situation is not looking good for this conference that has not moved an inch for the past 3 days. This passage may look very quiet now. Earlier on, it was busy with delegates outside here, and I can tell you that moving forward, at least for a couple of hours, we'll have a situation where all those delegates will still continue to debate the issue of the credentials inside. We're expecting ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa to close this conference tomorrow. It's not going to happen in the early hours of the morning, simply because on Mondays, the ANC will have a meeting of the top officials around about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. After that, in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, they usually have the National Working Committee meeting. And judging by what is happening here, by that time, it's highly unlikely that this conference will be done with its business, bearing in mind that if they do not agree on credentials this evening, they will still need to defer that matter to tomorrow morning. They cannot go for the nominations, elections, announcements of the results tomorrow morning, and they still have the most important task of going for commissions, discuss socio-economic challenges, policy issues that are affecting the people of the Eastern Cape. How do they turn around one of the poorest provinces in the country? Issues of unemployment, poverty, inequality, crime, gangsterism, issues of rural development, the Eastern Cape being one of the vast and rural provinces in the country. They have not touched any of those issues. They are fast running out of time, but this is what Polema had to say.
In conference, so part of the things that needs to happen at this is an elective conference of the African National Congress. So we are expecting that when conference rise, it should have concluded what it was convened for, which is to also renew the mandate of the leadership that would have emerged through this democratic process. The reason why we take time and pay attention on these things is to make sure that whatever else happens in conference, the outcomes ultimately could be welcomed by everyone. So any issue that gets to be raised, you have to make sure that you address that to satisfy your own processes and make sure that you protect the product that emerges out of this process. I mean, look at the mood here. Delegates are quite happy. Things are running as normal. So we shouldn't really imagine a crisis where none exists. There is no crisis. If the ANC, for whatever reason, decide to extend the days of conference, yourselves in the media will have to just extend your hotel stay. But conference is proceeding, and it will have to produce what it was convened for, which is to renew the mandate of the democratically elected leadership, outline a program that will be able to really change the conditions of the people of the Eastern Cape, driven by the ANC, because the ANC is also government in this province.
Very interesting developments. Siphamandla Goge will definitely be checking in with you a little later on to see what the developments are at that ANC Eastern Cape conference. Thank you for that report.